Karen said my garage was bringing down the neighborhood, so she called the cops on me. Yeah, the police actually showed up at my door because someone thought my garage was too messy. At first, I thought it was just another one of her petty complaints. She was always finding something to report. But this time something strange happened. When the cops looked inside, they didn't seem too worried about the clutter. Instead, their attention shifted to a few boxes I didn't recognize. That's when everything started to feel off. What was in those boxes had nothing to do with me, and everything to do with her. I didn't know it yet. But this visit wasn't going to end the way she thought it would. I live in a pretty quiet neighborhood. It's one of those places where every lawn looks the same, and the houses are lined up like they were copy-pasted. We've got an HOA, which means there are a bunch of rules about everything. How tall your grass can be, what color your blinds should be, even how clean your driveway looks. Most of the time, I just keep to myself. I work from home, so I'm usually inside handling my own stuff. Between work and life, I don't really have time to worry about what other people think of my garage. Speaking of the garage, it's kind of my catch-all space. I use it for storage, small DIY projects, and yeah, sometimes things pile up. It's not dirty, just full. You know how it goes. Boxes from moving that never got unpacked, old furniture I meant to fix, tools lying around from weekend projects I haven't finished yet. It's my space. I don't park my car in there, so what does it matter? Well, apparently, it mattered a lot to Karen. Karen lives a few houses down. She's the kind of neighbor who acts like she runs the whole block. Always watching, always reporting something. If a trash bin is out an hour too early, she's sending an email. If your Christmas lights are still up in January, she's already on her phone. Everyone knows she's way too into the HOA stuff, but no one really says anything to her face. She had a problem with me from the beginning. I don't play into the neighborhood politics, and I definitely don't kiss up to the HOA. And in Karen's world, that made me a target. Karen was the kind of person who acted like the street was hers. She didn't just follow the rules. She tried to enforce them, even when no one asked her to. Every time I stepped outside, there she was, either standing in her yard pretending to pull weeds or just flat out staring. Not in a friendly way either. It was the kind of look you give someone when you're waiting for them to mess up. She complained about everything. One time I got a warning from the HOA because my trash bins weren't lined up perfectly on pickup day. I found out later it was Karen who reported it. Another time, she left a folded-up note on my doorstep saying my grass looked a bit wild. It had grown maybe an inch taller than usual because I was out of town for 2 days. She even told one of my neighbors that I was lowering property values because I had a dented mailbox. A mailbox. Karen didn't just care about her house. She cared about every house on the block. Or maybe control is a better word. She wanted everything to look perfect, and if it didn't, she'd find a way to make you fix it. I heard she once took a picture of someone's Halloween decorations and sent it to the HOA with a note saying it was tasteless. She once called animal control because she said a neighbor's dog barked too much. Turns out it wasn't even their dog. It was never about safety or real problems. It was always about power. Karen loved the idea of being the person who could do something about anything she didn't like. She wasn't officially in charge of the HOA, but you'd never know it from the way she acted. It felt like she was just waiting for a reason to come after me next. It started with a knock on my door and a letter from the HOA. Inside was a warning about the condition of my garage. They said it was an eyesore and didn't meet the neighborhood standards. I stood there holding the paper, confused. I hadn't even realized the garage door had been open long enough for anyone to see inside. But someone had clearly taken the time to peek, or more likely, watch. A few days later, I found out exactly who was behind it. Karen. Apparently, she had been telling people my garage looked like a junkyard, that it was bringing down the whole block. She said it made the neighborhood look messy and unsafe, which was ridiculous. It wasn't like there were rats or anything dangerous in there. It was just packed. I had boxes from moving, some leftover wood from a project, old tools, paint cans, normal stuff you'd find in a working garage. Yeah, it wasn't picture perfect, but it wasn't a dump either. To avoid more drama, I spent a weekend clearing some space. I moved a few things around, stacked boxes tighter, swept the floor. I even closed the garage door more often. But it didn't matter. Karen wasn't looking for progress. She wanted perfection. A week later, another notice showed up. This one had a photo attached. It was taken from across the street, zoomed in through the half-open garage. She was spying, no doubt about it. I could almost see her standing behind her curtain, phone in hand. After that, it felt like she was watching my every move. If I opened the garage to grab a tool, I'd catch her looking. If I left it open for a few hours while working on something, someone would mention it in the HOA group chat. I wasn't in the chat, but a neighbor showed me a screenshot. There was my name and a message from Karen talking about how certain people didn't respect the community. That's when it started to feel personal. It wasn't about the garage anymore. It was about control. She wanted to push me into a corner, and I was getting real tired of it. It was a regular afternoon. I was sitting at my desk, finishing up some work, when I heard a knock at the door. Not a light tap either. It was firm, serious. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I looked through the peephole and froze a little. 2 police officers were standing on my porch. I opened the door slowly, not sure what to expect. One of them gave a small nod and said they were there about a complaint from the HOA. Right away, I knew who it was. Karen. They told me someone had reported a possible safety issue related to my garage. According to the complaint, it was overflowing with junk and could be hiding something dangerous. I couldn't help but laugh, but the officers weren't joking. They asked if they could take a look around. Just the garage, nothing else. I paused for a second. Not because I had anything to hide, but because the whole thing felt ridiculous. Still, I didn't want to make it a bigger deal. "Sure," I said, stepping aside. "Go ahead." I walked with them over to the garage and opened the door. The light flickered on, revealing the usual mess. Boxes, shelves, tools, old furniture. I was expecting them to glance around, maybe shake their heads and leave. But they didn't. One of the officers stopped near the back, staring at a stack of boxes I didn't recognize. That's when the mood shifted. He asked me where those boxes came from. I told him honestly, I had no clue. I hadn't seen them before. The other officer stepped closer, leaned in to check the labels, and radioed something in. That's when I felt it. This wasn't just a routine check anymore. Something was off, and the look they gave each other said it all. The officers started looking around more seriously now. It wasn't just a quick glance anymore. They were checking things, lifting lids, moving stuff around. One of them walked straight over to a stack of boxes near the back wall. I didn't even recognize them. Brown cardboard, sealed neatly with tape, and they definitely weren't mine. He asked again, "Are you sure you don't know where these came from?" I told him the truth. I had never seen them before. Maybe someone dropped them off without telling me. Maybe it was a mistake. I didn't know. I felt my stomach drop a bit, though, because I could tell they were onto something. The other officer opened one of the boxes. Inside were electronics, new ones, still in their packaging. Tablets, Bluetooth speakers, some headphones, all brand name, all clearly untouched. I stood there confused, trying to figure out how any of this got in my garage. I hadn't bought anything like that. Then they found labels. A few of the boxes had serial numbers and store tags. One even had a shipping label that had been scratched off but not fully removed. They started matching things up on their tablets, checking reports, and that's when one of them said it. These were reported stolen. A few weeks ago, I just stood there, silent. How could that stuff end up in my garage? I didn't take it. I didn't even know it existed until 5 minutes ago. But the officers weren't accusing me yet. They were just doing their job. Still, the tension in the air was heavy. I could feel it in my chest. What was supposed to be some petty HOA check just turned into a full-blown investigation. And I had no idea how deep it was about to go. One of the officers pulled out a box that looked a little different from the rest. It had a torn shipping label, like someone had tried to rip it off but didn't do a great job. He held it closer to the light, trying to read what was left on it. Then he looked at me and asked, "Do you know a Karen?" My heart skipped for a second. "Yeah," I said. "She lives down the street." He turned the box so I could see it too. Right there, under the ripped part, was her name. And her address. Clear as day. I didn't even know what to say. I just stared at it, trying to make sense of how her name ended up on a box in my garage. That's when the second officer pulled out another item, this time with a serial number already in their system. He checked it, then nodded to his partner. "This one's registered to her too." Now both of them were looking at me differently, not like I was a suspect, but like I might be the middle of something bigger. They asked again, "Do you have any idea how this stuff got in here?" I told them the truth. I had no clue. But then I started thinking. My garage door doesn't always close right if you don't pull it down hard. A few times I'd gone to bed and found it open the next morning. Maybe Karen noticed that. Maybe she took advantage of it. I told them about the issues with her, how she'd been watching me, complaining about my garage, even sending pictures to the HOA. I said I wouldn't be surprised if she snuck in and left those boxes there just to set me up, or to hide something of her own. One of the officers nodded slowly, like the pieces were starting to line up. They didn't say much, but I could tell they were thinking the same thing I was. This wasn't about a messy garage anymore. This was something way bigger, and it had Karen's name written all over it, literally. A few days later, everything hit the fan. The police didn't waste time. They followed up on what they found in my garage and went straight to Karen's house. I didn't see it myself, but word spread fast. A neighbor told me they saw officers carrying out boxes from her garage and even her basement. Turns out the stuff in my garage was just a piece of the puzzle. She had way more stolen items in her own house. Electronics, small appliances, even unopened packages that had gone missing from other neighbors' porches. Karen tried to play dumb at first, acting shocked, saying she had no idea how any of it got there. But the police weren't buying it. Between the shipping labels, the serial numbers, and her fingerprints on some of the packaging, it was pretty clear she wasn't just unlucky. She was involved. Eventually, they took her in for questioning. I don't know the full outcome yet, but let's just say she hasn't been walking around the neighborhood like she used to. Her perfect image? Gone. The HOA didn't say much at first, probably trying to save face, but everyone in the neighborhood was talking. The same people who used to nod politely at her were now whispering behind her back. Some even came up to me to apologize, saying they had no idea how far she'd gone. It was like the whole street flipped overnight. Karen wasn't the one calling people out anymore. She was the one everyone was watching. After everything came out, the HOA quietly dropped all the complaints against me. No more letters, no more warnings, nothing. It was like they were pretending it never happened. Karen, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. She got kicked off the HOA board, and from what I heard, she was hit with a fine too. No apology, of course, but I wasn't expecting one. With all that behind me, I finally took the time to clean out the garage properly. Not because someone told me to, but because I wanted to. I organized my tools, tossed some old junk, and even set up a little workbench. It felt good to do it on my own terms, without someone breathing down my neck. Looking back, it's almost funny. Karen was so obsessed with cleaning up the neighborhood, pointing fingers, trying to control everyone. But in the end, she's the one who got swept out. And honestly, the streets felt a whole lot quieter since, if you've ever had to deal with someone like Karen, someone who acts like they run the whole street, drop your story in the comments. I'd really like to hear it. Like, share, or send this to that one friend who always keeps their garage door cracked open. And yeah, lesson learned. Next time I see a Karen, I'm making sure my garage is locked up tight.